Black Waitress donates blood to save life. A few days later, the Black Billionaire made a shocking offer. The rain hammered the diner windows like angry fists. Outside, the Atlanta night had turned hostile, thunder rolling over the skyline, streets shimmering in oily puddles. Inside Melrose Diner, the lights flickered once, then steadied. Amara Brooks didn't even blink. She was too used to chaos. The 27-year-old waitress wiped down the last booth with a damp rag, her thin arms aching after a double shift. Her sneakers squelched softly with every step, soaked from a leak in the kitchen. She glanced at the wall clock. 10:56 p.m., 4 minutes until closing. She was reaching for her coat when it happened. A metallic screech tore through the storm, followed by a sickening crunch. Tires skidding. Then silence. That kind of silence only comes after something terrible. Amara didn't hesitate. She bolted out the door, her raincoat forgotten. Water soaked her braids, plastering them to her face. Her breath caught as she turned the corner near the intersection. A black luxury sedan sat mangled against a bent traffic pole. The hood was folded like paper, windshield shattered. 20 feet away, a man lay face down on the wet asphalt, unmoving. "Sir!" Amara shouted, her voice sharp with fear. She ran to him, knees splashing in blood-tinged water. "Can you hear me?" Nothing. His chest moved, barely. His arms were twisted unnaturally, and blood pooled around his head, mixing with the rain. "God," she whispered, already dialing 911. "There's been a crash on Ponce and Marietta. A man's down. It looks bad. Real bad." Her fingers trembled as she pressed her apron against his temple. The bleeding wouldn't stop. "He's still breathing," she told the dispatcher, her voice cracking. "But I don't know how long he has." The voice on the line told her help was coming, but it didn't feel fast enough. She stayed. Rain soaked her to the bone. Her fingers turned white from pressure. She whispered to the unconscious man like he could hear her. "You're not dying on me. Not tonight." Sirens wailed in the distance. Relief surged through her chest. Within seconds, EMTs rushed over, lifting the man onto a stretcher. "You the caller?" one paramedic asked. "Yeah." "He was alone." "No ID. Massive trauma. Significant blood loss," another shouted. "You know him?" Amara shook her head. "Number, but I'm going with you." The medic blinked. "You are?" "I was the first one here. Someone should stay with him." They hesitated, then nodded. Inside the ambulance, everything became a blur of beeping monitors and sterile shouting. "He's O-negative," one paramedic snapped. "We're low everywhere. Every blood bank's dry." Amara leaned forward. "What does that mean?" "It means if we don't find someone with matching blood, he could die before we even get him stable." Amara's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm O-negative." Both medics froze. "You sure?" "Yes. I gave blood once back in college. I remember because the nurse told me it was rare." "Do you weigh over 110 pounds?" She bit her lip. "Number 95. "Then we can't take a full unit. It's against regulation." "I don't care," her voice cracked. "Take what you can." "Miss, you could faint, go into shock." "I've seen someone die before because I was too scared to help. Not again." The older medic held her gaze, saw something fierce and haunted in it. He nodded once. At the ER, chaos exploded. Nurses rushed the man into Trauma Bay 3. Amara was led to a separate room for screening. Her clothes clung to her skin like second skin. The fluorescent lights made her feel like she was being examined from the inside out. A doctor entered, his coat stained, eyes exhausted. "You really want to do this?" he asked. "Yes." "You understand we can only take a small amount, enough to stabilize, not treat." "Whatever it takes. Sign this, consent form. You're underweight. It's a risk." She signed. Minutes later, she lay on a gurney, a tourniquet tightening around her arm. The antiseptic stung. She didn't flinch. She watched the red fill the small bag slowly, her head beginning to spin halfway through. "Liam," she whispered under her breath. The name floated in the air like a ghost. Liam had been her best friend in high school. They'd been inseparable. He was wild, loyal, and stupid enough to ride a motorcycle without a helmet. The night he crashed, Amara had been there. The doctor said he needed O negative, and she had it. But she panicked. Needles, hospitals, blood. Fear froze her. She said she'd come back in the morning. Liam didn't make it to morning. She'd carried that weight ever since. The nurse touched her shoulder gently. "You okay?" "I am now." When the blood draw ended, Amara was pale but steady. A nurse helped her sit up, handed her orange juice and a blanket. Across the room, her blood was rushed into Trauma 3. Minutes later, the ER doctor returned. "He's stable." She blinked. "Really? That unit you gave bought us time. Without it, we would have lost him." Amara let out a shaky breath. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're the one who gave Miss Brooks." "Thank you." He turned and walked away. Amara sat in silence, her hands trembling, her body aching. But her soul was lighter than it had been in years. She didn't know the man's name, didn't know who he was, what he did, or whether she'd ever see him again. But this time she hadn't run. This time she had stayed, and someone lived because of it. The fluorescent lights of the hospital corridor buzzed faintly, casting a cold sheen on the tile floor. Amara sat on a narrow bench outside the trauma unit, a thin blanket draped over her shoulders. Her sneakers were still soaked, her fingers clutching a paper cup of apple juice she hadn't touched. Every few seconds, her eyes darted to the double doors, as if expecting someone to come out and tell her it was all a mistake, that the man had died anyway, that her blood hadn't been enough. But no one came. Instead, silence settled around her like fog. Her mind, though, was loud. Liam. She hadn't said his name aloud in years, but tonight it had returned with terrifying clarity. His smile, his bike, the panicked nurses that night, and her own cowardice. "I'm sorry," she whispered, to no one. From down the hall, a nurse walked by, pushing a cart of supplies. She gave Amara a brief glance, then stopped. "You need anything, honey?" Amara blinked. "Number. Thank you. You look like you've seen a ghost." "I have," she murmured, "in my own head." The nurse gave a sympathetic nod and kept moving. Amara stared at the juice again. Still didn't drink. Inside the trauma room, the man she'd helped, still nameless, was fighting for his life. And Amara didn't even know why she cared so much, except that something about his face, the stillness of it, reminded her of that night with Liam. The difference was, this time she hadn't backed down. She had bled for a stranger, and it mattered. Across the hospital, in a private recovery suite, sealed off by security, Malik Langston stirred for the first time in days. He opened his eyes slowly, as if surfacing from a deep ocean. The light stabbed at him. He groaned, wincing as pain pulsed through his ribs and side. "Mr. Langston," a nurse said gently, appearing at his bedside. "You're awake." He blinked. Her face came into focus, and so did the sterile room around him. Beeping machines, 4 tubes, the unmistakable chill of a hospital. "What happened?" "You were in a car accident," she said. "Severe impact. You've been unconscious for almost 3 days." His fingers moved slowly to his forehead, wincing at the bandage. "I remember something. Rain, and a woman." The nurse looked curious. "A woman?" "In the ambulance, holding my hand." He struggled to sit upright. "She stayed with me. She didn't leave." The nurse smiled faintly. "You didn't have any ID when you were brought in, just your phone, and it was smashed. The EMTs said a civilian found you, rode with you. but she didn't leave a name. "Find her," Malik whispered, more to himself than anyone else. "Please." Hours later, Malik's assistant, Carla Reynolds, arrived at the hospital in her usual black turtleneck and sharp ponytail, tablet in hand. She looked calm, composed, until she stepped into his room. "Sir," she breathed, "thank God." "I need you to find her," Malik said, skipping any greeting. "The woman from the accident. She saved my life." Carla raised an eyebrow. "Security's already reviewing footage. I've spoken to the ambulance team. No name, no record. She refused medical credit, left before they could get her info." He looked at her intently. "Then check traffic cams, street footage. Ask the diner nearby. Someone saw something." "Why is she so important?" Carla asked softly. He paused. "I've been surrounded by people who want something from me for years. Money, position, access. But she didn't want anything. She gave without asking." Carla hesitated. "You think this is about repaying her?" "No," he said. "It's not about repayment." "Then what?" He looked past her into nothing. "She reminded me of my mother." Carla went still. "You never talk about her," she said quietly. "She was the same," Malik said. "Kind, invisible to the world, always giving, never asking. And she died broke in a public hospital bed while I was closing a merger in Tokyo." The silence between them stretched. "I don't know who this woman is," Malik said finally, "but I owe her more than a thank you card." Carla closed her tablet. "I'll find her." That night, Malik lay awake in his hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face, not fully, just enough. Brown skin, wet braids clinging to her cheek, eyes filled with determination and fear. She had stayed with him when no one else would, and she hadn't even known his name. In her apartment across town, Amara stood at the bathroom mirror, brushing out her braids. Her younger brother Jordan, a pre-med student, peeked in. "You look like you got hit by a bus." "Close. A luxury sedan." He frowned. "You okay?" She nodded. "Yeah. Just tired. Still thinking about the guy." Amara didn't answer right away. She stopped. "I couldn't let it happen again." "You saved someone's life, Amara. That's big." "I know," she said, setting down the brush. "But I don't even know his name." She turned off the light. Back in the hospital, Malik pressed a button on his bedside remote. The nurse came in. "Do you have any paper?" She handed him a notepad. He wrote 4 words. "Find the girl, please." Then underlined it, twice. 3 days after waking up, Malik Langston sat upright in a private suite at Emory University Hospital, frustration buzzing beneath his skin. He had weathered cracked ribs, a fractured clavicle, internal bruising, and the kind of concussion that left him drifting in and out of sleep with scattered images. But nothing irritated him more than the fact that, in all his wealth and reach, he still hadn't found her. The woman with the soft voice, the small hands gripping his in the ambulance, the stranger who didn't run. Carla stood near the window, tapping through a tablet as she updated him. Her voice was calm, professional, but her eyes showed cracks of concern. "We pulled all security footage from the ER that night," she said. "Half the cameras were fogged up from the rain. The others? Too many faces, too much chaos. She's not on any official intake log." "She signed a blood consent," Malik said, his tone clipped, "under a temporary alias, just A. Brooks, and she declined post-procedure care, walked out before shift change." Malik stared at the floor. "What about the diner?" "Check the closest ones near the crash site. Melrose Diner has a night shift waitress named Amara Brooks, early 20s, no formal medical training, lives in a modest apartment near Edgewood, works 2 jobs, and yes, O negative." His head snapped up. "That's her." We can't be sure, Carla warned. I am. Carla gave a long sigh. Do you want me to reach out discreetly? Malik paused, then shook his head. Number I want to see her myself. A beat. That's not like you, she said. Malik offered a tight smile. That's the point. The next evening, Malik stood outside the Melrose Diner, wearing a simple gray hoodie, jeans, and a baseball cap. No driver, no security detail, no press alert. Inside, the diner buzzed with low conversation, clinking forks and the smell of burnt coffee and grilled onions. It was the kind of place he hadn't set foot in since his mother's funeral, where people came to eat cheap, talk loud, and disappear into the background. He stepped in, eyes scanning the room. There she was, Amara. Wearing a faded red apron, hair tied up in a messy bun, she moved like someone who'd done this 1,000 times, refilling coffee, wiping counters, dropping off plates with a tired but automatic smile. She didn't notice him. He sat in the farthest booth and watched. For 20 minutes he said nothing, just sipped his black coffee, hands wrapped around the mug, watching the woman who'd changed everything. Then it happened. A customer, a white man in a rumpled business suit, snapped his fingers loudly at Amara. She approached his table. "Another refill, sweetie," he said, voice dripping with condescension. "And maybe smile this time. You look like you're serving bad news." Amara stiffened but didn't respond. She grabbed the coffee pot. He reached up and touched her wrist. "Don't be like that. You're cute when you smile. What's with the attitude?" Malik stood before he realized it. "Hey," he said, walking over. His voice was calm but low. "Take your hand off her." The man turned, surprised. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." Amara blinked, stepping back. The man scoffed. "Who the hell are you?" Malik removed his cap. For a moment the man looked confused. Then recognition flickered across his face. "No way," he said slowly. "You're Malik Langston." Half the diner went quiet. Forks froze mid-air. Malik ignored the growing attention. "She said nothing and you laid hands on her," he said. "Apologize, then leave." The man stumbled for words. "I didn't mean anything by it. It was just—" "Apologize," Malik said again. The man stood abruptly, knocking his chair backward. He muttered something under his breath and shuffled out the door without paying. A few people clapped quietly. Malik turned to Amara. "You okay?" She stared at him, eyes narrowing. "Why are you here?" "I came to find you." "You've got to be kidding me," she whispered. "No." She glanced at the door, then back at him. "You're the guy from the ambulance," he nodded. "And you're the woman who saved my life." "I didn't do it for this," she said. "Whatever this is." "I know. You shouldn't be here." "I disagree." She crossed her arms. "Look, Mr. Langston." "Malik," he corrected gently. "Malik, then. I didn't donate blood for attention. I did it because someone was dying. That's all. I'm not here to offer you a check." She stared at him, unconvinced. "Then what are you here for?" He hesitated, then said quietly, "To understand why you didn't walk away." The question hung between them like steam from a fresh cup of coffee. Amara looked tired. Not just physically, bone-deep tired. "Because I did walk away once," she said finally. "And someone died." Malik's expression shifted. "That's not going to make headlines," she added. "No viral video, no inspirational poster, just a waitress who messed up once and couldn't live with it." He was silent for a beat. "You didn't mess up this time," he said. "You gave me a second chance." "I gave blood," she replied. "That's it." Malik took a breath. "Number you gave something no one's given me in a long time." Amara looked away. "I've got tables to cover." He stepped back. "I'll come back tomorrow." "You don't have to." I want to." She didn't stop him, but she didn't smile either. As Malik left the diner, the air outside felt different, cooler, lighter. Inside, Amara leaned against the counter, hand gripping the edge hard enough to turn her knuckles white. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Malik returned the next night, and the night after that. Each time he sat at the same corner booth by the window. He wore the same gray hoodie, same worn cap pulled low. Never ordered more than black coffee. Never asked personal questions. Never brought up blood or trauma or the fact that he ran a tech empire worth billions. He just watched and waited. Amara tried to ignore him. She was used to regulars, lonely men looking for a smile, exhausted mothers needing silence, bus drivers wanting pie at 2 a.m. But Malik was something else. He never flirted, never pushed, just sat and talked about things that had nothing to do with why he was famous. "Rain's coming again," he said one night, glancing toward the fogged window. "Yeah, traffic's been brutal all day," Amara replied. "Funny how storms make people drive worse, not slower." She smirked. "Same with life," he chuckled quietly. "That's deep. I work in a diner. I see people cracked open every day." He watched her a beat longer, then nodded, like he was filing her words away. Still, Amara didn't trust it. Not fully. You don't get to build walls like hers and let someone like Malik Langston stroll through them just because he drank coffee like a regular person. Then one evening, everything changed. She was wiping down the countertop when the bell above the diner door jingled. She looked up out of habit and instantly froze. Two men in expensive suits stood at the entrance, dry despite the drizzle outside. Their posture screamed corporate. One carried a briefcase. The other scanned the room until his eyes landed on Malik in the corner booth. They walked straight to him. Amara caught fragments of the conversation as she passed nearby with a coffee pot. "Board is asking questions, Malik. You were supposed to meet with the UN tech delegation this week. Investors are losing patience." Malik didn't raise his voice. "I told you, I'm not stepping back in until I'm ready." "You're chasing a waitress," the man with the briefcase hissed, low but not low enough. Amara's hand tightened around the handle. "She saved my life," Malik said flatly. "And now you're sabotaging your own legacy for her." Malik stood slowly, calm, but steel in his voice. "My legacy is mine to decide, and if you bring up her name like that again, you won't be speaking on behalf of my board. You'll be job hunting." The man flinched. "You can leave now." They did. Amara stood frozen behind the counter. She hadn't meant to hear all of it, but she'd heard enough. When Malik returned to his seat, she approached, arms crossed. "Was that real?" He looked up, surprised by her expression. "What part?" "That you're walking away from your company." "For me?" "I'm not walking away," he said. "I'm stepping back. And it's not for you. It's because of you." "That's not better." "I mean," he said gently, "you reminded me why I started all this in the first place, to build something that matters. I forgot that somewhere along the way." She studied him. "You don't even know me." "I know enough. You know I live in a studio that leaks when it rains, work 2 jobs and haven't had a day off in months. I know you stayed with a stranger who was bleeding to death. That doesn't make me special." "No," he agreed. "It makes you real." Silence stretched between them, raw, uneasy. Then she said, "You can't fix your guilt by playing savior. I'm not a redemption arc. I'm not here to save you, Amara. I'm here because you saved me, and it made me want to do something with the life you helped me keep." She swallowed hard. He reached into his pocket, not for a check, not for a ring, not for anything that could be bought, but a folded piece of paper. "I want to show you something," he said. He slid it across the table. She hesitated, then opened it. It was a schematic, a rough diagram of a digital network. Blood types, zip codes, alert systems, volunteers. "What is this?" "A concept," Malik said. "A national donor network. Instant notifications when someone nearby needs rare blood. Hospitals, ambulances, civilians. Real-time coordination." Her eyes scanned it. "You made this." "I started it in the hospital, the night I remembered you." She looked up slowly. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I want you to help me build it." She blinked. "Me? You have the heart, the urgency, the story. I can fund it. But you make people believe in it." She laughed once, bitter. "You want a waitress with $32 in her checking account to co-found a national health initiative? I want Amara Brooks to build something that could change lives. And what? When it's built, you take the credit and I go back to refilling decaf? No press, no spotlight, not unless you want it. I just want you in the room, helping shape it." Amara folded the paper and slid it back. "Let me guess. You think this is the part where the underdog says yes and everyone claps?" Malik didn't answer. She leaned closer. "You're not the first rich man to offer me a way out. But here's the twist you didn't expect, Malik." "What's that?" "I'm not looking for a way out. I'm looking for a way forward." He smiled faintly. "Then let's build that together." She didn't respond, just picked up the coffee pot and walked away. But that night, as she stood in her tiny bathroom brushing her teeth, she reached into her pocket. The schematic was still there, folded, but not thrown away. 3 days passed. Amara hadn't called, hadn't messaged, hadn't returned to that conversation in the diner. But the blueprint Malik gave her wasn't in the trash. It sat on her nightstand, neatly folded, next to a half-burnt lavender candle and a cracked photo frame of her and Jordan from years ago. Every morning she looked at it. Every night she didn't throw it away. It gnawed at her. The offer, the audacity of it, the truth buried inside it. And what scared her most was that she didn't hate the idea. But trust for Amara Brooks wasn't something handed out like napkins in a diner. It was earned. And Malik Langston had dropped into her life like lightning, dramatic, loud, and impossible to ignore. So she asked someone she did trust. Jordan sat across the kitchen table, eating cereal straight from the box while scrolling med school practice questions on his phone. "What if someone offered you a seat at the table?" Amara asked, voice casual but eyes sharp. Jordan looked up. "Depends on the table. If it's a poker game, pass. If it's the board of the American Heart Association, I'm pulling up a chair." "What if you didn't think you belonged?" He narrowed his eyes. "Then I'd figure out who told me that and stop listening." Amara swallowed. "Even if it came with strings? Then I'd read the fine print, make my own terms, and write the contract in ink." She smiled softly. "When did you get wise?" "When I watched my sister give blood to save a stranger. You taught me that. You don't run from hard things." Later that afternoon, Amara called Malik. "I'll do it," she said, not even waiting for him to say hello. There was a pause on the other end. "No conditions?" he asked, cautious. "Oh, there are conditions. Don't get too comfortable." He laughed, the sound more relief than humor. "Name them." "No media, no ribbon-cutting ceremonies, no slick brochures with my face on them." "Done. I'm not going to be your mascot, Malik. I want a partner, not a puppet. And if I walk away halfway through, then I'll thank you for whatever part you built." She exhaled. "Okay, let's build it." The following weeks were a blur. Meetings, prototypes, calls with hospital directors, late-night strategy sessions in borrowed office spaces. Amara sat in rooms she never imagined herself in. between software architects, trauma surgeons, logistics consultants, and to her surprise, she belonged there. Because while they spoke in acronyms and budget forecasts, she spoke in reality. She told them what it felt like to watch someone die because help came too late. She told them how it felt to sit in a cold ER, waiting to find out if the blood she gave was enough. And they listened. Even Malik, especially Malik. He never pulled rank, never talked over her. When she spoke, he looked at her like her words carried more weight than any CEO's memo. And when she faltered, and she did because doubt doesn't die overnight, he never filled the silence for her. He let her find her voice. Then one morning, during a planning meeting with potential partner hospitals, a sleek man in a navy pinstripe suit leaned back in his chair and said, "It's an inspiring concept, but the logistics are unrealistic. Donors flake, hospitals get overwhelmed. Real-time tracking of blood types. This isn't Star Trek." Amara leaned forward. "You're right. People flake. Systems fail. But let me ask you something." He raised an eyebrow. "If your daughter got into a car crash on a rainy night and needed O-negative blood within 30 minutes, and you knew there was someone 2 blocks away who could save her but didn't get the alert in time, would you still call this unrealistic? Or would you call it a tragedy we could have prevented?" The room went silent. Even Malik's jaw tensed. The man didn't reply. Amara continued, "We're not building perfection. We're building possibility. And sometimes that's the difference between a funeral and a second chance." The meeting ended with a signed partnership letter. Later that night, in the quiet of their shared workspace, Malik looked over at her. "You were brilliant today." She shook her head, tired. "I was just honest," he nodded. "That's exactly what brilliance sounds like." They sat for a moment, surrounded by blueprints and coffee cups. Amara spoke first. "Why me?" she asked softly. "You could have hired 1,000 experts. Why chase down some broke waitress in the rain?" Malik leaned back. "Because you walked into a storm and gave a stranger your blood without knowing his name. That's not something I can train into a boardroom." She looked away, overwhelmed. "And because," he added, quieter, "I didn't want to build this with someone who saw me as a paycheck. I wanted to build it with someone who saw me bleeding and stayed." There was a silence, but it wasn't awkward. It was deep, rooted, real. Then Amara cracked a half smile. "Well," she said, stretching her arms over her head, "if I'm building a national life-saving network, I'm gonna need better snacks. I'll call catering. And you're not allowed to say synergy or disruptive innovation around me. No promises." She laughed for real this time, and for the first time in years, Malik didn't feel like a man trying to prove something. He just felt human. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. It started with the name. Unity Chain. Short. Clean. Easy to remember. But more than that, it felt like a promise. A promise that no one would have to sit in an emergency room and hear, "We don't have a match." A promise that being the wrong blood type wouldn't mean being out of time, and Amara Brooks was no longer just a waitress. She was the heart of it. Word spread quickly. Hospitals in Atlanta signed on first, then Charlotte, then Memphis. A pilot program launched. Volunteer donors registered online and were linked by blood type and zip code. Emergency alerts went out when matches were needed. The app worked, lives were saved, but so were secrets. Because behind closed doors, Amara was fighting battles no one saw. She sat across from hospital executives, most of them older white men with clipped tones and Ivy League credentials. They talked in circles, shifting chairs, pretending her presence didn't rattle them. "We appreciate the spirit of the program," one said during a tense meeting in Nashville, "but offering free blood transport without insurance reimbursement sets a dangerous precedent." Amara didn't blink. You mean it sets a human precedent? The room stiffened. You have to understand, Ms. Brooks, the man continued, adjusting his cufflinks. This industry runs on protocol. This isn't a protocol, she said. It's a pulse. And right now, people are dying because we value policy over people. The man tried to interrupt. She didn't let him. I've seen families watch a clock tick down on someone they love. If you think paperwork matters more than that, then I'm in the wrong room. Across the table, Malik smiled without saying a word. When the meeting ended, the man reluctantly extended a contract. Amara took it with steady hands. Later, in the elevator, Malik turned to her. You know they didn't expect you to hold your ground. I'm not here to make them comfortable, she said. No, he said. You're here to make them accountable. They returned to Atlanta just as the storm hit. A literal one, this time. Thunder rolled across the skyline. Streets flooded. Emergency rooms overflowed. It was Unity Chain's first real stress test, and it nearly broke them. Servers crashed. Blood banks ran low. A logistics error delayed transport by hours. One child with leukemia almost didn't get what she needed. Almost. Amara stayed up 42 hours straight, rerouting alerts manually, calling hospitals herself, and even coordinating a last-minute donor delivery on her own. When the blood arrived and the child stabilized, Amara collapsed onto the floor of the mobile unit and cried, half relief, half exhaustion. Malik found her there. He didn't speak at first, just sat beside her. Then he whispered, You saved her. Amara shook her head. We did. No, he said. You did. You willed it into existence. She wiped her face and looked at him. This isn't sustainable, she said. We're growing too fast. We need infrastructure. We need people. I've got people. No, she said firmly. I mean the right people. Folks who understand what this is, who don't just want credit or career points. People who've held the hand of someone slipping away and know what it feels like to pray for a stranger. He nodded slowly. Then we find them. The next morning, Amara began recruiting differently. She visited nursing schools, small clinics, community colleges. She spoke to janitors, cafeteria workers, EMTs with tired eyes and full hearts. She told them the truth. Not the PR version. She told them about the night she stood in the rain, pressing her apron against a stranger's wound. She told them about Liam, about guilt, about redemption, about building something out of broken pieces. And they came. People like her, not polished, not perfect, but real. The Unity Chain expanded, quietly, effectively. No press tours, no headlines, just stories. Like the mother in Kansas who donated blood for a man she'd never met, only to discover he was the one who saved her son a year prior. Or the former inmate who became a full-time Unity Chain dispatcher after losing his sister to a slow ambulance and a closed blood bank. Real people, real purpose. But with growth came resistance. A leaked email surfaced from a hospital board member calling Unity Chain a disruptive liability. Rumors swirled that larger insurance companies were pressuring hospitals to drop their support. One afternoon, Amara walked into a meeting where 3 hospital partners had suddenly rescheduled indefinitely. She didn't flinch. Instead, she called a town hall. No suits, no sponsors, just donors, recipients, and volunteers. Standing in a school gym on a Friday night, folding chairs, squeaking, kids running between legs. Amara took the mic and spoke simply. We're not here to fight insurance companies. We're not here to destroy hospital protocol. We're here because someone needed blood and no one came. We're here because someone like me stood on the sidewalk and refused to walk away. If this movement scares the powerful, maybe it's because for the first time, they're not in control of who gets to live. Silence. then a single clap, then two. Then the whole room rose to their feet, and from the back Malik stood, watching her. She didn't see him wipe a tear from his cheek. But he did, because in that moment he didn't see a waitress. He saw a revolution, and her name was Amara Brooks. The parking lot behind Unity Chain's newest mobile unit clinic was packed. A line of people stretched out under the early morning sun, some waiting to donate, some hoping for help. Nurses moved between patients. Volunteers handed out bottled water and clipboards. Amara stood inside the van, sorting registration forms with practiced hands. The Atlanta heat was unforgiving, but she didn't mind the sweat or the pace. She thrived in motion. It kept the doubts quiet. Then she heard the voice. "Well, well, if it isn't the bleeding heart waitress turned disruptor." She froze. It wasn't the words. It was the voice, the drawl, the smugness. A sound she'd hoped never to hear again. She turned slowly. Standing a few feet away in a tailored blazer and sunglasses was Dr. Elliot Monroe, former head of the Midtown ER. The same doctor who, 4 years ago, dismissed her brother Jordan after a 3-hour wait, calling his stomach pain diet-related anxiety. It turned out to be a ruptured appendix. Jordan nearly died. Amara's jaw tightened. "You're not scheduled here," she said. "I'm part of the state board now," he said, smug. "New Public Health Oversight Division, and I've got concerns about your little blood crusade." Malik, who'd been on a call nearby, stepped forward. "Is there a problem?" Elliot turned, eyebrows raising slightly. "Mr. Langston, I didn't recognize you out here with the common folk." "I prefer the company," Malik replied coolly. "Why are you here?" "Reviewing protocols. I've received reports of unsafe handling, undocumented donors, and possibly unlicensed procedures happening in your mobile units." "That's a lie," Amara said immediately. Elliot smiled. "Is it? You're not exactly trained, Miss Brooks, and if something goes wrong under your leadership, who do you think takes the fall? I don't answer to people who nearly killed my brother and then covered it up." The smile disappeared from Elliot's face. Malik's eyes narrowed. "You know what she's talking about, don't you?" "I don't have time for conspiracy theories," Elliot snapped. "But the state board will be paying close attention. If Unity Chain continues to violate standard procedures, we'll shut you down." He turned and walked off without waiting for a reply. Malik looked at Amara. "You okay?" She nodded stiffly. "I'm not scared of him, but he's not bluffing." Later that night, Amara sat alone in the Unity Chain headquarters. Everyone else had gone home. The lights hummed quietly. Her laptop screen glowed with emails, data reports, flagged messages. She opened a folder she hadn't touched in years. Inside, medical forms, complaint letters, a copy of the ER intake from the night Jordan almost died. She hadn't forgotten. She just buried it beneath the urgency of now. But Elliot Monroe was a danger, and now he had power. Her phone buzzed, a text from Carla, who'd stayed late at the downtown legal office. "Found something. You're going to want to see it. Come now." 20 minutes later, Amara sat in a quiet boardroom with Carla and Malik. On the screen was an internal memo from the state board. Hidden in legalese and redacted lines was a key phrase: "Proposed directive. Temporary suspension of Unity Chain's mobile unit permits pending systemic review." Amara's hands curled into fists. "They're trying to shut us down." Malik leaned forward. "We have lawyers. We have data. We can fight this." "No," Amara said. "We expose it." Carla glanced up. "You sure?" "We've kept this quiet to avoid politics, but if they want a war, we give them a truth bomb they can't silence." She tapped the folder she'd brought with her. "I have the original intake records from Midtown. I have signed witness statements. And I know what Monroe did to Jordan." You want to go public? Malik asked. No, Amara said. I want the public to see what systems like his are doing every single day to people without power. The next morning, Amara stood on the front steps of City Hall, flanked by Malik, Carla, and several Unity Chain volunteers. Microphones pointed in her direction. Reporters jostled for space. She didn't flinch. I started Unity Chain because one night I stood on a rainy street and refused to walk away from someone who was dying. I did that because, years earlier, someone walked away from my brother. A doctor named Elliot Monroe. Gasps rippled through the crowd. He misdiagnosed my brother and tried to bury it. Now, he's trying to bury Unity Chain. Why? Because we don't answer to insurance companies or political favors. We answer to people, and that scares him. The press exploded. Headlines hit social media within minutes. Protect Unity Chain trended nationwide. That afternoon, the health board issued a formal statement, pausing the suspension request pending further review. Behind closed doors, several members called for Elliot Monroe's resignation. He refused, until a nurse from Midtown stepped forward with a recorded audio file of him laughing about letting poor people wait. It went viral within hours. The board had no choice. Monroe was dismissed within the week. Amara didn't celebrate. She just went back to work. That night, as she and Malik stood outside the Mobile Clinic, rain falling softly again, he handed her a cup of jasmine tea. You didn't just stand up to him, he said. You tore down a wall. She exhaled slowly. There'll be more. Then we tear those down too. She looked at him, this man who had once been a stranger bleeding on the pavement. Not alone, she said. He smiled. Never again. The Grand Hall in downtown Atlanta shimmered under rows of soft white lanterns and exposed Edison bulbs. Instead of chandeliers and champagne flutes, there were metal chairs, mismatched tablecloths, and hand-drawn posters taped to the walls, each one bearing a name and a face saved by Unity Chain. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. The one-year anniversary celebration had drawn more than just partners and donors, volunteers, nurses, high school students, a father who drove 3 hours to say thank you, a 10-year-old girl who brought homemade cookies for the woman who'd once held her hand in an ambulance. At the center of it all stood Amara, wearing a deep blue dress and sneakers. Her hair was up. Her eyes scanned the crowd with wonder and disbelief, as if trying to understand how this many lives had gathered because she didn't walk away one rainy night. Malik found her standing off to the side, gripping a program folded into quarters. Nervous? He asked, offering her a paper napkin. I can't believe they asked me to speak. They didn't ask, he said, smiling. They insisted. She sighed, stepping toward the makeshift stage. The mic crackled as she adjusted it. The room fell quiet. I don't like speeches, she began. I'm more of a show-up-and-get-it-done kind of person. Laughter broke the tension. But there's something I need to say. Not as a co-founder or a figurehead or whatever title people give me these days. Just as someone who once sat in a hospital lobby watching a clock run out on someone she loved. She paused, her eyes glassy. Back then, I thought second chances were for other people. Richer people. Louder people. I didn't think I could ever matter in something big. She glanced at the Unity Chain banner draped across the back wall. But it turns out big things are just small things that people refuse to quit on. The crowd leaned in. I didn't save anyone alone. I just did what I could in the moment I was given. And it changed everything. So if there's anything I want you to remember tonight, it's this. Don't underestimate your moment. Don't talk yourself out of showing up. You don't need a title or a platform. You just need a heart that won't let you walk away. A beat of silence. Then applause. Not explosive, but steady. Rising. Layered with emotion. The kind that says, "We see you, we hear you, we believe in what you just said." Amara stepped off the stage and back into the arms of her people. Later that evening, as the event wound down, Malik stood beside her under the night sky. The city buzzed quietly around them. "I remember the first thing you said to me," he said. "I don't," she laughed. "I was in shock." "You said, 'You're not dying on me.'" She smiled. "Well, I meant it." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small box. She blinked. "No speeches," he said. "Just a question." He opened it to reveal a ring. Simple. Classic. A deep sapphire set in gold. "Amara Brooks," he said. "Will you build the rest of this life with me? Not as a symbol or a co-founder or a miracle. Just as you." Her breath caught. The noise of the city seemed to vanish. "I don't want perfect," she whispered. "But I want real. I want to keep fighting. With you." He took that as a yes. They didn't kiss like a movie ending. They just held each other, like two people who'd survived something and chosen each other afterward. As they stood there, a small girl tugged at Amara's dress. "Are you the blood lady?" she asked shyly. Amara knelt. "I guess I am." The girl grinned. "I want to be like you one day." Amara's voice caught in her throat. "You already are," she said. That night, as lights dimmed and chairs were folded, one final message appeared on the projector screen above the crowd. This movement was built not on money or fame, but on one person's choice to care. Imagine what we could do together. If this story stirred something in you, if it reminded you that everyday people can rewrite the end of someone else's story, then don't just scroll on. Subscribe to soul-stirring stories and be part of a world where compassion wins, because sometimes all it takes is one act of kindness to save a life, to start a revolution, to change everything.